You all are doing well today. I want to take a minute to talk a little bit about the future of social media and more specifically, what are some patterns that you need to be thinking about. So, the reason I want to bring this up is that there are a lot of mentions about, what's going to be new. And I appreciate everybody's project of working and seeing what social media y'all thought had interesting value to it. And I just kind of like to add a little bit towards that. And while I'm not offering necessarily any new social media platform per se, at least in this lecture, I do want to talk a little bit about a concept called presence or telepresence. So I may have talked about this once or twice, and I've brought on other people as guest lecturers that hopefully that y'all have checked out in my YouTube channel. But I want to talk about that and talk a little bit of where that fits in with the future of social media. So let's talk about it. So telepresence here is the illusion of technology to create stronger immersion. Now there are two types, well actually three. There is physical presence, but we won't get into that today. What I want to talk about is social presence and spatial presence. And to go along with that, talk a little bit about what are called parasocial relationships and interactions. This is actually a specific field of mine that I do a lot of research in. I've got a handful of publications about presence and parasocial interactions and relationships. And it's becoming a more and more primary source of how people use advertising, how people have used things in their stream, as well as podcasts. Social media in general has this appeal to make things more personal. And that's a stark contrast from how we've seen other forms of media, like television or radio or something like that, that you could really only gauge statistics via, ratings or something like that. So let's talk about, first and foremost, social presence. So social presence is a very interesting premise, and it's basically saying the ability to feel like proximity and conversation is eliminated. So if you've ever felt like you've had a good interaction with a person while on Skype or Zoom, that it just felt like you were a part of something and you didn't feel like there was any technology between you. So even though the camera was on, it felt like you were having a genuine conversation with that person on the other side of the screen. This goes well with a lot of gaming communities. People who like to play Dungeons and Dragons have, especially since the pandemic and quarantine, have really found this as a kind of a new way to experience this campaign and bring people closer together that they wouldn't otherwise use, which is really neat. I myself have done that before, as well as played fantasy hockey with my brother-in-law who lives out in Buffalo, New York, as well as other friends who live out in Boston and Georgia, and one that lives in California. We're all over the place in this league, but we all converse while the season is progressing. So we do this in actual environments to where we feel like we belong as a part of something, and that, again, that technology isn't present. There's also digital environments. I've got a picture up of a Animal Crossing graduation, which for some people that might sound a little ridiculous, but I actually was able to attend one for Florida State University, and I will admit it was a ball to be a part of it and be a part of a group that put in a lot of effort to make this particular world and their Nintendo Switch part of their own, making graduation just a lot of fun and personal because you get to customize your avatar. So even if it's not an actual video feed, the area of using something like a digital avatar, it can still increase that presence and make it very much something that is appealing aesthetically, you still feel like you're there. So even though this is kind of a cartoony world, it is a cartoony world. The fact is, this is actually something that does not make it so that we're out and feel out when it comes to being a part of technology. And there's also spatial presence. And if you've never heard of spatial presence, this is basically if you've ever played like video games before and the environment that you were in, you just felt like you were there. So this is actually pretty cool that this person's wearing a VR headset, walking on a treadmill, exploring a digital environment, and you feel like you're in a different world. This was actually pretty darn cool being able to sit down and I just was able to play on an Oculus before, so play on VR. And it's really interesting because the peripherals that you would see are very much part of the world that that you're walking around in. So, like, I took a trip to Tokyo, if you will. So, not actually going there, but experiencing it in VR in such a way. That could include things like digital tours and as well as digital events that I included in the David Meerman Scott lecture that is available on As You Learn, as is that reading. So to be able to create that digital environment is something that if you do well, it feels like you're there and it feels like you're having a great experience. So I've noticed this a couple times when I've been playing a game or something, and hours have gone by, and I'll sit there and go, "What in the world happened?" I've just been really enthralled with this digital environment. And where this comes into is when people who are influencers or streamers are able to create content, their goal is to create that immersion. So when they have whatever their gameplay is, or if they're just doing a just chat stream, they might have something to where they are projecting themselves to the audience. And it's very authentic. It's very down to earth. The information they give is very trustworthy. And if I'm an advertiser, it's a smart thing to look at influencers and say, this is a group of people that are in a very trustworthy area, as well as can offer great word of mouth to the people that they are presenting this information to. So I highly encourage businesses when I'm able to consult for them to start looking into influencers. And the picture I have up here is not just some person that's just happens to be a gamer. I actually know this person. His name's Josh Jepson, wonderful human being. I actually have a lecture on As You Learn that he talks about some of this stuff about being an ambassador for Nintendo and being able to be a person of influence, because that's what he did. He speedran some of those games, and is generally known for platform-based games. And you might sit there and go, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that means. And that's okay, because here's the thing. A lot of this is not going to be based on the audience that you might be a part of. You might know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you do, then you might be the target audience here, or in media planning terms, your universe. However, you may have very different interests here. And because you have very different interests, you will probably find yourself looking at influencers that are completely different, have a different focus, may have a different tone, but still in the same capacity, they feel very trustworthy. They feel very much a part of your language that you're speaking and your interest here. So what does that mean for campaigns? So as social media strategies come up, and this is, again, kind of the future of how we are going to be utilizing social media, is first and foremost, and this is nothing particularly new, but it's just becoming more and more present, there is an increased need for better technology. I cannot tell you how many student complaints I've gotten over the years about poor audio, poor video quality. So, I made sure to fork over a couple $100 for a good microphone so people can hear me and hear me clearly. Closed captions is also something that a lot of people really enjoy. But there's also increase for greater niches. So again, what I mentioned here for Josh in this example here, it's not so much gaming as a whole. It's people who play Nintendo or people who play a particular game. It's not so much sports, but people who watch baseball or watch a particular team. So I like watching a influencer. His name is Tom Grossi. Big Green Bay Packers fan. I'm not a Green Bay Packers fan. But at the same time, he does such a good job in being able to communicate his message into the tailored audience that he has. And with that, I like the NFL. I enjoy watching even as a Bills fan. So, again, these are the kind of things that they can speak that language like nobody else can. And something that a lot of celebrities don't have that ability to do. So, what is happening and what we're seeing here is we've seen that there are streaming services like Paramount, Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime. They all kind of have their own content that they're producing. But now we're starting to see more and more where people will pay attention to individual streamers. We saw that in the course of the pandemic when there were over 8 million stream channels being invented. Now, granted, that went down significantly, but people find the time to take the time to watch these streams because they're very trustworthy. Again, they're very credible in the things that they like to do, and they find it very entertaining. So much so that they might actually stop doing other streaming services because they just like that person that much more. So we will probably start seeing this ever increasingly. And again, I would definitely encourage you as you are going through your assignment within your social media strategy, consider your brand and how they deal with things like technology, with things like influencers, and how might they use them more effectively. So I'm going to stop there. Like I said, I just wanted to give a quick overview on that. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. But I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you very soon.